Hey there, and welcome to this video in which I want to share my wish list for The Sims 3. To be honest, there are already so many packs that I don't know what else EA could introduce The Sims 4 to, what other packs they might release, especially expansion packs. I mean, there are still a few things open, but I think right now most of there's nothing missing for me right now except for a few things that I want to talk about in this video. Okay, I just played that back and realized I said Sims 3. Obviously, I mean the Sims 4. But I also wish that it would be cool if EA could release a Sims 3 patch that makes it playable for newer computers without you needing to do all those setting stuff, and also that you don't have those saving issues and crashing issues. That would be great. So I have it would be nice to get like an update for The Sims 3, but this video is obviously for The Sims 4. And so the one expansion pack that I would love to see is medical care. Imagine the healthcare Redux mod, but as a pack, and you could go, instead of your Sims going to a rabbit hole, you can actually go with them. And if you're not familiar with the healthcare Redux mod, wait, is it called like that? I hope so. But if you're not familiar with that mod, what it actually adds is, it adds things like allergies, chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes. And the cool thing about that is that they can actually, if they have diabetes, they have to take insulin. They can illnesses, like common illnesses like a cold. They can also get severe diseases, injuries, emergencies like a heart attack. And they can even die from some of these, they can die from the severe diseases and also the emergencies. So this could add more realistic death types to the game. Obviously, it would also be cool if there would be tuning options. So if it doesn't fit your storyline, you can turn some of them off if you're like, oh no, that's just annoying me, or I don't want my Sim to get sick. And as I already mentioned, I want the option to go with your Sim, kind of like with the realistic Childbirth mod, that you can go with them to get those tests done. Imagine your Sim catching a cold or feeling off, and you can go to the hospital with them and see, go to the front desk and then getting checked out, and you can see your Sim getting checked out and getting the diagnosis and the treatments or the treatment options. So that's something that I really would like to see in The Sims 4. Also, imagine medical emergencies happening, so even wherever they are, not just in the hospital, but also if your Sim is at home or at a community lot and they could just have like a medical emergency, and maybe different types of emergency. Some might be more severe, some might be less of a serious thing, but that there just all of a sudden something happens and that the EMT, that an EMT or firefighter would come and help them. And this could also introduce a new career like the EMT or firefighter career, and that it kind of, it's like it starts off as one career and then you can choose between the two. I think that would be cool, because in The Sims 3 we have firefighters, but not in The Sims 4 yet. Also, another example could be a fire. Imagine there is a fire and firefighters come if you have if you have the smoke alarm thing. Imagine your Sim might get like a smoke, what's it called, but might get issues because of the smoke, and they're getting checked out, and maybe it's something more serious and they need to get checked out checked out in the hospital. So they're gonna be brought to an ambulance, and then it just loads to the hospital. But you could also just not join them if you don't want to, but you still have the joining option and you can go to the hospital with them. Or another example could be a Sim having a heart attack at home. Again, this might be, in this case you could have like a Simlish version so that it doesn't say Sim's having a heart attack, but maybe something else. And also again here, imagine paramedics coming in, and you call the paramedics and they're checking your Sims and they're moving the Sims to the ambulance, with a gurney. This is I want more realism like that. And obviously, since we don't really have cars in The Sims 4, it would just go to the loading screen if you choose to join your Sim. Another thing that they could add is to this pack is mobility aids. For example, imagine the doctor career that already exists and get to work. The annoying thing is, imagine that you know, because I had a sim, I realized that a few days ago, or maybe a few weeks, I don't know, but a sim collapsed and they had to get a surgery, and it was like it seemed like it's a very serious thing. And then your sim goes to them, and the sim that just collapsed gets up and walks to the surgery table. I can't talk. Imagine, it would be so much cooler if your sim just, if the doctor sim just goes over there, and you know, if you could play it from both perspectives, you know, from, you know, as the doctor perspective, if you have got to work, or if you have this pack, just from the patient perspective. But imagine the doctor going over to them, checking them, and not just the sim getting up at them already, or you know, the doctor checking them and making sure they're okay. Maybe they might CPR, maybe not, depends on to the situation. Sometimes they might need it, sometimes they won't. And then they move the sim to the surgery with a gurney instead of the sim just getting up and walking over there. Also, you know, with the doctor career in between those tasks, imagine you could admit them to the bed with a wheelchair instead of them just walking. Also with the other tasks, if you could just bring them to the x-ray with a wheelchair instead of them walking there. Oh, but to get back to the sim collapsing, you know that there are different, you know, that the situation can be different from time to time, that it's not always the same thing happening. You know, that sometimes they might stay unconscious, sometimes they might, you know, get their conscience back and they're fine and they can get up and walk away. But especially if they need surgery, it would be more realistic if they just stayed unconscious or maybe a little bit drowsy, or I don't know. Also, I would like to see a bit more, you know, a little bit, the surgery to be a little bit more realistic. Obviously, it doesn't have to be too realistic, but just imagine, you know, the C-section with a childbirth mod. It's also probably it's definitely not the most realistic one, but you see what's happening, so that would be cool if it's a little bit more realistic. And while still talking about mobility aids, I think it could be also cool if sims that have injuries, you know, if your sim could actually injure their leg or whatever, and imagine them being able to use crutches or wheelchairs, and also depending on the injury, if they have like a broken arm, they could also get an arm sling or a cast. And then now imagine your sim injuring themselves, and you get the mood like, oh, my arm is hurting, and you go to the hospital. You go check in at the front desk, and then you get checked out. So you talk to the doctor, and then you go to the x-ray, get your cast, and you can see all of that. And now whenever your sim is actually using a mobility aid, whether it's a wheelchair or crutches or whatever they might use, that you can also click, you know, go here, and they will use, you know, they sit down in the wheelchair, and if you click on go here, they won't get up and walk there, but they can actually go there using the wheelchair or the crutches, or a walker for elders, or a cane for elders, depending. And also that if your sim is using a wheelchair, they can also be pushed there. That you could also click like push yourself there, or be pushed there, or you know, that's if someone else is sitting in the wheelchair, you could click on push sim, and then you click on push here, or something like that. I don't know. Also, talking about, you know, walkers for elders, this could also add more elderly gameplay, you know, that maybe some elders are rely on a wheelchair or walker or cane, you know, that this is added to games, to the age span, or to the age group, I don't know. And also it could add, you know, the game could add like ramps for the wheelchairs, a chair lift, or disability or more accessible bathroom for wheelchairs to the build mode. And since I'm already talking about the elders would be more affected, you know, that they have a higher chances for some diseases, and also a higher chance to become deaf. And, you know, also, you know, if they are sitting on a, maybe not just the elders, but any age, you know, if elders are sitting in a wheelchair, or maybe not even in a wheelchair, maybe also on a sofa or bed, or wherever they could sit, or on a chair, or not just elders, but also, you know, young adults, teens, adults, their grandkids or kids or younger sims could sit on their lap. There's actually an amazing mod for The Sims 3 where this is already possible. But imagine, you know, an elder sitting in a wheelchair, and their grandkid, you know, the toddler is sitting on their lap, and they're getting pushed somewhere. I don't know. This is something that could be added to this as well. Also, because I said, that there's a higher chance for them to become deaf or for elders to become deaf, I want disabilities added for all ages, not just elders, that some might be even born with a disability, and that there are mobility aids that come with them. So, for example, some Sims might show signs of a disability very early on, and for some it might show later. For example, maybe there are infants with little hearing, and I mean, we already have hearing aids in the game, and it would be so cool if they could actually be functional. Another thing I'd like to see is blindness, if Sim could use a cane or maybe even a guide dog if you have cats and dogs. And then obviously also amputees with mobility aids, like prosthetics, I can't talk, or also a wheelchair, or maybe that some are maybe paralyzed and just can't move and just are dependent on a wheelchair, and that those could also that the way that disabilities occur are different. As I said, some might happen at a certain time, and maybe that even some might occur after a serious disease, that if they have a serious disease and they are in the hospital, that they might afterwards maybe lose a limb, for example. And speaking of being in a hospital, I think it could be also cool if there's in hospital care, for example, after a surgery or after a severe disease. And the length, obviously if they are in there for a week, it might be very annoying for the player, so it depends on the lifespan. So for some, it might be like a day or just a couple of hours, but you could just set choose it in the settings how long there should be, or maybe that you could also just click it away and say, okay, send them home and they're gonna be fine. I don't know. And also that you have the ability, if they are in the hospital, that you have the ability to call for someone, kind of like in the Childbirth Mod with this one bed, where they can just call for a doctor. But instead of that just being an exam room or in an exam bed, it's kind of like really like a hospital bed where they stay and can also get food, because I don't think they can get food if you're there as a patient, but you can bring that to them if you're in the playing with a doctor career right now. And next to hospital care, I could also imagine at-home care, for example, for elders, but also other age groups if they're other. I think then it gets way too serious, but maybe for elders, if you could get, if the kids could, hire at-home care for the elders, and nurse would come over maybe once a day for 2 hours, or I don't know. And retirement homes for elders, this could be a new lot type, and maybe while they are at the retirement home, they could also brag about their grandkids. Although I think it could be also cool if they could brag about their own kids, and telling the other the other elders that their kids are the best on their field, whatever they're doing, they're very successful. Or maybe that even adults could brag about their kids. I think there's already like a brag about baby interactions, but if they could just talk about their kids in general and brag about them. And then another few things that I just want to mention on the side is like, obviously also adding like mental health issues and also neurodiversity into the game. And also medical emergencies, although I kind of already talked about this a little bit, but medical emergencies like in The Sims 3, where, if you do play with a doctor career, that things could just happen anytime, and your Sim just has to react to that. Although it would be better if it would be a little bit more realistic than in The Sims 3. But I already kind of like the way they do it in The Sims 3. There was a lot of Sims 3. And also if there are more realistic death types, there could be also funerals as an event, because I think some might still want funerals in the game. Okay, but that's for the expansion pack. My game pack idea is kind of like a romantic drama. What I mean by that is I just want more animation. I want more romantic and animations and more dramatic animations that are a bit more realistic. Imagine playing a drama show or like a medical drama or drama in general in The Sims and have these more serious conversations, especially for storytelling. This could be so cool, because with my storytelling videos right now, there are certain things that I can't just tell just without a voiceover. I need the voiceover to bring across what's happening right now or what they are talking about. And so it would be cool if you could have more more serious, more serious conversations in the game, and that new animations in general. It doesn't all have to be romantic. It could be also, like sitting together and being serious together, or someone giving them advice, and small gestures, like a pat on the back or a supporting hug, or someone leaning their head against the other Sim's shoulder, things like that. Also, speaking of more serious, the breakup interaction. I don't really like the breakup interaction. This waving goodbye thing would be so cool if they could just sit there together and realizing, having a serious facial expression, and they realize they just don't have a future, and they're sad, and they're sitting together. Maybe that you have a variation for sitting and standing, that it's just not always the waving goodbye thing. Also, I'm not sure if there's already a text option to break up with someone. I know you can do that in The Sims 3. I'm not sure if it's possible in The Sims 4. Next, I also would like to see some new engagement animations. Kind of imagine, for example, those very cheesy ways. Those were the only ones that I could come up, but maybe even others that are maybe a little less cheesy but still cute. For example, if there was, imagine the engagement from Friends with Monica and Chandler, or from The Big Bang Theory with Leonard and Penny, things like that. But that they're just sitting there or kneeling on the floor. But other than that, like those typical engagement situations, like in the hot air balloon, in the champagne, or that the ring is in the champagne or in the cake. Also, because I already talked about breaking up, would be cool if there could be like something, if they were engaged, if they could just return the ring and also there have a more serious. I just want those dramatic moments that you see in drama shows or even in sitcoms. Imagine Ross and Rachel's breakup. This is not possible in The Sims 4 because the waving goodbye thing just looks ridiculous. But I want things like that. I want to do storytelling just by the video, or just using clips. And so that's just what I want. And so returning a ring could be so cool if you have like a series, and if you have more control over your Sims in general while they're looking. But I think I'm gonna talk about this in a moment. I'm not sure. I'm going off a list here. Also, new woohoo animations, like a hookup animation where they're just walking to. I think there are some very cool woohoo animations. Obviously you never see them actually woohoo, but the before animations, and I think the normal bad woohoo animations just kind of lame. And it would be cool if they could just kind of like hook up that you see how they're going, kissing and making out. I think it's a little bit better in The Sims 3 than in The Sims 4, but if you could see them going and moving to the bed while they're still kissing, something like that. And I lost where I was. Okay, also speaking of that, and The Sims 3, because what I also haven't seen in The Sims 4 yet, maybe it's possible I just haven't realized it, but cuddling and making out in the bed, it's possible in The Sims 3, haven't seen that in The Sims 4 yet. Okay, since starting working on this video, I've seen a short where someone showed in-game animations that never really made it into the game. The cool thing is though, you can still find these animations in The Sims 4 Studio. Another animation could be like kiss on the forehead, or in general just more romantic animations, or in general, not just romantic, but in general more animations. Another thing I'd like to see is Sims walking while holding hands. If you, for example, in Mount Komorebi, you go on a walk with someone that you could. This is also something I did play this a while ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was already a bit disappointed that you couldn't choose the conversation. I think they still talked a little bit, but it's kind of like having, the Sims eating in The Sims 3, where they do talk, but you have no control over the conversation. It would be nice if when they go on a walk, they could first of all hold hands while doing that, but if you could also control the animation, the conversation, if you could like talk about day, talk about career, talk about this in the sim, talk about what happened, and things like that. And maybe also have like cute stops, where they're just giving them a kiss on the cheek or something like that. And another feature I'd like to see is a picnic blanket on the floor, and maybe even that doesn't have to be just romantic. It could be also like a friendly thing, like in The Sims 3 where you have that picnic basket. and the picnic blanket, something like that. But it would be also cool if you have an invisible option, so that you can all do all those things you can do on the picnic table, which I'm gonna go to in a moment, but also without a picnic blanket visible, and that it's not a picnic basket visible either, that you could place those items additionally, like the picnic basket or the food items, or a cake you could place on there, or a game that they could also use that space to play a game. And then it would be cool if they could also do that. And that's what I meant with invisible blanket, because it could be cool if they are just sitting there on the floor without a blanket, but sometimes you might want a blanket, and so then you use the visible option. And then for the picnic, I also would like additional animations, while they're sitting there. If they could take their hands and do something cutesy, they could kiss and make out, or even watch the stars, because it could be also so cool if you, and I think I also complained about this in The Sims 3, would be so cool if you could choose where they actually watched the stars. So I think that could be so cool if they could use the picnic blanket, and in this case you could also use the invisible option to watch the stars together. Oh, another thing that could be added are like romantic gifts, like candy or jewelry, I can't pronounce that, that their partner or the sim just hands a little surprise for their partner, for their loved one. And also I want to quickly talk about the world, that I think it could be cool if it's like a Paris or Venice inspired world, although I have a tendency to say Venice, just because then you could do like a gondola ride, if you say it like this. And this could be also another proposal possibility option. I don't know. Imagine them on a gondola ride, or on a boat in general, maybe not just a gondola, but on a boat in general, and they could just do like a proposal. I think that could be cute, and also have those other interactions like kissing, like holding hands, making out, things like that while they are on this ride. I think this could be cool, and I think this could be like the perfect pack to add online dating for those who still want that. So that would also fit the theme, I think. Okay, moving on to the stuff pack. I think what it could be good, because I like packs that add new options to do, new things you could do with your Sims. And so what I'm thinking here is like the roller coaster store object that already exists in The Sims 3, but for The Sims 4, that you can have kind of like I forgot what the word is. I can't think of that. But that you maybe even have some other options like a carousel, or riding thingies for toddlers that already exist in The Sims. There aren't carousels in The Sims 3. I think maybe there's a store object, I don't know, but these riding thingies for toddlers, or maybe even arcade games at this lot, so that this might be even a new lot type, I don't know. But it would be cool to have this roller coaster, because this could be, to go there with your families, maybe have this could be like a pure thing similar to what already exists in Copperdale, that imagine the what's it called, the wheel thing, I don't know, but imagine more of those objects on this lot, although I think then it's just getting way too big for stuff pack. But it would be cool to have this store object that are for The Sims 3, but as a pack for The Sims 4. Now, when it comes to updates, there are two things I really, really want, and I think a few more other things. The one thing that I really want, I don't need an open world like in The Sims 3, but I'd like to have the option to play with all my Sims in my household at the same time, because you can do that, obviously, since there's an open world in The Sims 3, you can do that, but not in The Sims 4, because if I have two Sims at different lots, I obviously can't play with both of them. And it would be so cool if you have different loading options, depending on how good your computer is. If you could say, okay, I want to be able to load every lot there, my Sims are on, so that I could easily switch between two Sims, even though they're in completely different worlds. Or I don't know, but I would like to have the possibility to play with all my Sims at the same time, and I don't have to choose. Because imagine you have like one Sim that's in high school and you want to play with them, and the other one at home taking care of the toddler, and you also want to play with them, and you always have to choose. And it would be so cool if you didn't have to, if you could just play with both at the same time. Again, I think that's a very unrealistic wish. I don't think this is ever going to happen, but it would be so cool if you had just have more, more options. If you could just choose, and depending on how good your PC is, you could just tune those settings and say how much it loads, or if it can load an entire neighborhood. So you could, if it also loads the houses or all those lots in one neighborhood. I don't know, but it would be nice if you, because I remember one time playing in Evergreen Harbor, and one of my sims was going to a lot that's kind of next door, and I still can't play with both of them, and you can see everything on that lot, and so it would be so cool if you could, even though if you have both sims at those two different lots, and you can still see inside this community lot, but I couldn't play in it because it wouldn't load unless I actually travel to that lot. And so that's something that I really, really want, even though I know that's not gonna happen, because I don't need an open world like in The Sims 3. I also don't really need cars. I wouldn't mind if they added that, but I just want the options to play with all my Sims. Another thing I really, really want, and I think this is also something I've been complaining about The Sims 3, are indoor game options, or things that my Sims could do indoors, especially when it rains. And in The Sims 4 you obviously have games, but it would be nice if you're not tied to those game tables. Imagine if you just have those game boxes and you could stack them, use them as decor, but if you want to play them, you could also just put them in your Sims inventory and play on a community lot. But you could just drag them onto a normal table, maybe even on the floor, you know, like for example if there was this picnic blanket, or you know, on a counter, you know, that you could just drag it over there and they could play this game on different surfaces and not just on those game tables. You know, it would be so cool if you have more, if you just could play it on any table, and maybe even the edge of a counter, you know, that two Sims could play cards there, or you know, that two Sims could play cards in a bar, and you're not dependent on those game tables. And also I would like to see new games, even though I'm also already happy that we have games in The Sims 4, because this is something that I miss a lot in The Sims 3, or especially when it's raining and you're like, I don't know what to do with my Sim inside, especially, you know, if they have friends over, what should I do if they're inside, except for talking, or you know, especially also during a slumber party. So I like that there are games in there. I just wish you could place them on any table. Also with the puzzles, I think that could be so cool if you could just place them maybe even on a desk. So that's something that I want. And obviously also new games, like maybe even Twister, or you know, board games, and also chess, because I'm not the biggest fan of the basic, you know, of the default chess tables there already are. It would also be cool if you could just place like a chess box on to a normal table, or normal dining table, or the floor. Okay, one thing that I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier is better control over conversations. Kind of like if you could just fine tweak, you know, for storytelling, if you could just, for example, choose where your Sim is looking at. You know, imagine your Sim is talking to their fiance, but they are still in love with their ex, and the ex is just walking there, and while they're talking to their fiance, they are looking towards the ex. Sometimes it works out on its own, but it would be nice to have, you know, a little bit more tuning option, or you know, if you could just have a little bit more control over that. Also, something that really bugs me, and this is something that they could that would be, I mean, this I think is very unrealistic, but the thing that would be more realistic is the fact that it's really annoying if you have Sims talking to each other, and you want them to have a normal conversation standing up or sitting, and then they just sit down or stand up if they were already sitting. And I just want them, and I remember this in the Growing Together series, when Jaden talked to his girlfriend, or she was talking to her sister, I don't know. And basically, when, you know, it doesn't matter what happened there, but I was so frustrated because they kept sitting down, and it's not what I wanted. I wanted them to stand, and it would be nice if they, you know, if you had more control also with group conversations, if people wouldn't just enter your conversation, and you want them to have a romantic conversation that messes up everything. So it would be nice if that would be a bit more, if you had a bit more control over that. And now two other things that I think should be possible, I'm not sure if they will ever add those, but it would be cool, is first of all to ask for pronouns and age. I know in The Sims 3 you can ask for age. I'm not sure if it's possible in The Sims 4, but especially I remember when High School Years came out, looking for that interaction to ask someone for their pronouns. So that would be cool if you could actually ask them about it so that you use the right ones and not just assume them. And also if, you know, the game would automatically assign pronouns, because I think sometimes they're, for most of them, they are not assigned, if I'm not mistaken there. And also if you could just ask about age in general, you know, ask them how old are they. Could be also interested if you're, you know, if you're to meet someone and you see, okay, they're a young adult, but you don't know if they might age up soon. Obviously, if you have mods like the MC Command Center, you could just check. But it would be nice to have, you know, the option to ask them how old they are and then decide if you want to keep talking to them or not. This sounds so mean. How old are you? Too old. Way older than you. Okay, no, now I don't want to talk to you. But yeah, and another thing that would be cool is, you know, a more photo poses. Just especially we only have 2 romantic ones. It would be cool if there are more also like group poses. So that that is easier to take photos with your Sims, and you're not too dependent on custom poses basically. And the last thing that I would like to be updated to the game are the swimming areas. It would be cool that, you know, especially with the older worlds, the beach areas or the water areas could be swimmable, as, you know, in newer worlds. I mean, I don't think every part of the newer worlds or every water part is swimmable. Swimmable, even a word, I don't know. But it would be cool if they could update those, you know, that, for example, in, what's the world called from Outro Retreat? Granite Falls. That in Granite Falls or also Windenburg, if you could swim in the ocean and, can you swim in? No, you can swim in the pool, I think, in Windenburg, but I'm not sure. So it would be cool if they could just update those worlds that you can swim in those oceans or those seas as well, because in the newer ones you obviously have swim options, but not in the older ones as far as I know of. Okay, and the last thing I want to quickly talk about or quickly mention are Sims 3 features that I still miss, or that not that much. I think the first pack that I talked about, the medical pack, is the one thing or the main thing I want. But those are, you know, Sims 3 features which I would be very excited if they would add those. First of all, strollers. It would be cool, and this is something that I already was a bit annoyed by in the Sims 3. It would be cool if the strollers could be, if there could be different types, you know, if you have a infant version where they could actually nap, and it's not this, because the ones in the Sims 3 are more suited for toddlers. I think they're kind of weird for babies, so it would be nice if there's an option where they could actually lie down and not sit in, especially if for younger Sims or for younger ages. Would be also cool if you could you know, take the newborns in a stroller, you know, if you have a stroller where they can, which kind of functions as a crib basically. And if you could also choose where to go, kind of like with the wheel, how I just described it with the wheelchairs and the mobility aids. The other thing are hotels and houseboats, and this is something I realized when playing with Island Paradise in The Sims 3 last summer. I think, I don't know, it would be so cool. Because in The Sims 4 you can play with infants, and this is something that I was missing a little bit in this. That's in the Island Paradise Let's Play, so it would be cool to have hotels, but it's not my number one priority. It's not the one thing I want, but it would be cool. Also houseboats, just because those are the things that I still see missing, that existed in The Sims 3 but are missing in The Sims 4. Another thing that's still missing are the Showtime careers, and it would be also cool that, you know, not just that if in The Sims 4 there wouldn't be just the careers that existed in The Sims 3, but also, you know, like if you have a comedian or other musicians to be, you know, if those could be Showtime careers as well, where you can perform with them like in The Sims 3. Also bands could be an option, and that could be also like a freelance career type, you know, that they can get their gigs like, you know, with the actor career or something similar like that. And one of my favorite interactions in The Sims 3, which I don't think exists in The Sims 4, is playing tag, because playing tag is amazing for kids to make friends with, even with older Sims. But if you let two kids in The Sims 3 play tag, they will be besties very, very quickly. Okay, and in the end, very quick, another quick idea to do would be, like, you know, that they could add as like a sewing skill and a stylist career, also like a tattoo artist. But just, I think that's just something that I kind of randomly picked up or thought of. Not necessarily something I really need, but it could be an idea. And yeah, that's already it. I mean, that was a long video. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, I don't know how to end this, so I'm just gonna say bye.